Hello and welcome back to Party Political Puffin Opinions. And this is the second show of the day. I know, we go from a complete disaster to more than one disaster all in one day. Now, what would I like to talk about now? Well, something that I think you possibly will have seen in mainstream media, across the media in general, is employers are offering golden hellos to workers up to £10,000. I know, who'd have thought it? Who could believe it? Well, not me. There is nothing unusual with employers offering money or perks, shall we say, up front to entice employees that they need. It's as simple as that. If an employer has to meet either a contractual obligation or they have a chance of making even more money by the acquisition, and it is an acquisition, of a particular human being, they'll pay the paltry sum of £10,000 when they will be making hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions, because of the value that that individual will add. Or perhaps, as perhaps we'll see, they have no choice but to get that individual or those individuals. Anyway, what am I talking about? Let's have a look. So, here's just one example of the mainstream media. This happens to be The Guardian. Employers offer golden hellos of up to £10,000 amid worker shortage. As it says here, employers are offering signing-on fees of up to £10,000 to tempt gold dust applicants, as more than 1.1 million jobs in the UK remain unfilled, with the pingdemic worsening a shortage of workers caused by Brexit and a lack of skills. Now, from a certain point of view, all of that is true. Let's have a look at this Mirror article that breaks it down as to who's done what. Not so much why, but as to who's done what. So, Scottish care home operator HC1 is paying applicants on 2 registered night nurse roles £10,000 up front as private healthcare providers battle with a shortage of workers partly caused by EU citizens returning home. Okay, let's just bear that in mind. EU citizens returning home. Okay. Now, undoubtedly, the data supports this, and hardly surprising. It goes on to cite mental health group Elysium Healthcare is offering a welcome bonus of £5,000 for registered nurses, and the Priory Group is also offering £5,000 for mental health nurses. Now, it's worth noting here that mental health nursing, or mental health care in general, is by far one of the most underfunded aspects of the National Health Service. Again, this requires its own video, and we'll definitely get one. But of course, mental health, can't be seen, and it only really warrants being paid for when it affects the proletariat turning up to create wealth for people that do absolutely fuck all. Then it's a problem. Up until then, can't be seen, doesn't matter. And besides, if you're rich and you have a mental health problem, well, that's eccentric and neither here nor there. They can afford to pay for private healthcare, so they don't really give two shits about the likes of us and the difficulties that we might face. But as I say, that deserves its own video, and will definitely get its own video. So the article goes on to say almost 5,000 vacancies across the UK currently offering signing-on bonuses for in-demand roles such as care workers, chefs and nursery staff. Now, these are the very same roles that we were standing outside a applauding principally the National Health Service, but any of the reporting, like look back over the last 9-10 months, and you'll see people working in supermarkets are referred to as key workers because they are key workers. Without food, we die. So therefore, the people helping you get your food are key to your survival. Right. So the article goes on to say, according to Adzuna, there were 1.1 million advertised job vacancies between July the 19th and the 25th, with logistics and hospitality among the worst hit sectors. Hang on a minute. The article and the headline, the clickbait, employers offering £10,000 welcome bonuses amid chronic shortage of skilled workers. But then we know from the data that they've provided, it found almost 5,000 vacancies offering a signing on bonus. Offering a signing on bonus, not £10,000. And that's neither here nor there. 5,000 vacancies of over 1 million. That's less than 0.5%. That's less than 0.5% of those jobs are being offered with some sort of signing on bonus, which of course aren't £10,000. Let's have a look at some realistic jobs. Aldi's career website states wages are between £14.15 and £15.34 per hour for day shifts, and £16.98 and £18.41 per hour for night shifts. Okay, so that's about, at best, the £15 an hour, which I consider to be a real living wage. That nets you about £27,000 a year. £18 an hour, that's about 33 grand a year. The median wage in the United Kingdom is £31,500 a year. So basically, Aldi, with its fantastic wages, plops you either side of the median wage. So the sort of wage that is required to live a normal life, you're now being boosted to, purely and simply because you're a key worker. And of course, it has nothing to do with key workers and the labels associated with certain groups of people. It's purely and simply because capitalism requires human beings to create wealth for ghouls who do nothing. It strikes me that one of the things that's not addressed in any of the articles really that I've read on this particular subject is that people have reevaluated their lives. We're in a pandemic. It's not even guaranteed it's the tail end of that pandemic. Hopefully it is. That's neither here nor there. People have been through awful times. People have lost family, friends, loved ones. And none of these articles address the notion that people may have reconsidered them slogging themselves for 40 hours a week and more to simply just about survive. And perhaps what they've decided is, you know what, perhaps the holiday to Brighton has got to go out the window this year. You know, perhaps I've got to walk to work instead of get the bus. Perhaps I've got to walk the kids to school instead of get the bus. Perhaps I've just got to cut back however I possibly can on the meagre income that we've got. Because, you know what? I could be spending all of these hours with my children. I could be spending all of these hours with my family. I could be pursuing some creative outlet that I have. I could be going back to school myself. I could be doing a whole host of other things other than making other people exceptionally rich and putting my health, not just physical, but mental health on the line for people that really don't care for me. They only have to endure me because I make them money for which they don't have to do anything. Just as an aside, the other thing that I really should mention is when it talks about Audi's career website, stating these wages are between this, that, and the other. What it doesn't tell you is how many hours a week you'll be able to do. So as I said, if you're working a day shift, you could just about get 27 grand a year. If you're doing a night shift, assuming for both of them 40 hours a week, 46 weeks of the year, then you can just about for a night shift get 33 grand a year. But these contracts aren't going to be for 40 hours a week. They're going to be for 10 hours. They're going to be for 12, 16 hours maybe. So these are not salaries. And all I mean by salaries is we as a family could survive on me working in Audi full time. We're good with that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work in Audi full time. No, because I'm not going to be able to work 40 hours a week. So ultimately, these wages, whilst they're better and they are in line with what I would consider to be a real living wage, it still requires individuals to have multiples of jobs or multiples of adults to have multiples of jobs. Just as an aside, the company that gets the sort of headline of this, HC1, because they're paying 2 registered night nurse roles £10,000 up front. I tried to find out what £10,000 up front meant. I mean, for all I know, that could be £10,000 of your annual salary up front. Yeah, that'd be useful. Lump sums of money are always useful. But if that's coming out of your annual wage, you've gained access to that money, which you maybe be able to do something with. But ultimately, it could still be coming from your annual wage. But again, that's neither here nor there. It's for 2 people. And being as it's so specific, it does make one wonder if, to meet their contractual obligation to either find themselves with a new contract, they've had to hire 2 more people, or what I've experienced myself is the local authority has discovered that they're not staffing their contract correctly and so holds them accountable. And so they need to get 2 night nurses on the hurry up. I don't know that as a fact. I did try to find out, but there's not very much specifics on this. Just something to think about. But yeah, further to this, to this wonderful company that's being proactive and trying to employ these lazy proles. Let's just have a look at there we go. HC1 announces the sale of 52 care homes and 4 closures. Actually, this article explains it. No, that's the start. 2 seconds. There we go. That's it. James Tugendhat, HC1's chief exec, said, you need to listen to this carefully or read it carefully. As we plan how best to use our resources to continuously improve our care homes, we are determined to invest where we can have the greatest impact and more effectively ready ourselves for the evolving needs of those we care for. The interesting phrasing is, we are determined to invest where we can have the greatest impact and more effectively ready ourselves for the evolving needs of those we care for. It's as if to say, we're putting the company first, and then as an afterthought, we need to think about the people that we are paid to look after. He goes on to say, as a result, we are putting 52 of our homes up for sale in areas where we feel our communities would be better served by a local operator in conjunction with other local services. And as everybody who lives in some constituency with local services, I think what we all know what that means, which is my company isn't making enough money, so we're going to slope our shoulders back to the local authority, make it their problem. He then goes on to say, we are also proposing to close 4 homes. In both cases, we will work closely with our local partners and commissioners. We will work closely with our local partners and commissioners. Well, it's too late. You've already made that decision. So you're not really working very closely with them, are you? You're giving them an ultimatum. The GMB, Rachel Harrison, who is the GMB National Officer, said, the government has failed to deal with the problems in the social care system over years, with the COVID pandemic revealing the yawning cracks in the system from years of government neglect. This announcement from one of our biggest social care providers is having to sell off and transfer care homes during the biggest public health crisis in all our lifetimes just shows how broken the current system is, maybe even on the verge of collapse. Now, I would imagine that Rachel Harrison would have a much better grip of that. I have somewhat of an insight into the National Health Service, which is different. However, don't write this last part off as hyperbolic, that the system may be even on the verge of collapse. It sounds like a strong statement. She may be right to make that statement. And just to remind everybody, that this self-serving company, more than 30,000 care home residents have died after contracting coronavirus since the pandemic began, according to the ONS. 30,000 care home residents have died after contracting coronavirus since the pandemic began. That's the ONS, the Office for National Statistics figures. 30,000. So let's be generous. Let's say, less than a quarter of all deaths in the UK. That's assuming that, those numbers aren't on the low side, both nationally and specifically for the care home. It's a sad state of affairs. It's horrific. And I've taken it down a dark path, unfortunately, whereas really what I wanted to do was get very angry. One, that the media exploit this type of language. Employers offering £10,000 welcome bonuses amid chronic shortage of skilled workers. And then when you actually read the article, it's business as usual. Employers have a need. They don't actually explain what that need is. Hopefully I've laid out some of the possibilities for you. Either they can't meet their contracts, or they want to get a new, better paying contract, so they need specific resources in place. So £10,000 for two, 20 grand for 2 people, that'll be nothing to them. And then they go on to, give you figures like almost 5,000 vacancies, are offering signing on bonuses. Again, signing on bonuses might be £1,000. Whoopsie. 5,000 of them of let's be generous, 1.2 million advertised vacancies. So less than 0.5% offer anything. Nothing. So the media are culpable here. 1, for being hyperbolic, and then 2, for leaving those headlines hanging as if to say, well, you see, capitalism is actually okay, because they'll cough up when they really have to. No, my argument's the complete opposite. The problem that capitalism has got, is because it is by nature exploitative. They don't have people in place because they pay the bare minimum that they think that they can get away with. And it's only in time of crisis do they actually throw any money at people. And it is literally throwing money at them. They don't care about these people. Anyway, I hope that's enlightened you on this particular subject. So let's not get too carried away, capitalists, by these types of headlines. Employers offer golden hellos of up to 10,000 amid worker shortage. Let's have a think about why there is a worker shortage. Anyway, I hope you got some value from this. If you did get some value, then please subscribe, like. If you've got anything that you'd like to comment on, please do. Comment down below. I haven't got any of the flash whizzy PayPal, Patreon. I can only do this with the support of the audience. I don't want to make it sound bigger than it is, but that's the truth. So anyway, I'll get all the flash whizzy. If you can support the channel, that would be great. Ongoing support can be given at patreon.com/partypoliticalpuffin. If you can't make a monthly contribution, but you would like to help financially, you can go to paypal.me/partypoliticalpuffin. But just by watching the videos, liking, subscribing and commenting and sharing, you are supporting me and the channel, and I really want this to make a difference. So thank you for helping me do that. I really appreciate it. Take care and have a good day. See you in the next one. Bye for now.